Huh?
The sun's really bright.
Yeah, I know, the sun is bright. It's kind of ridiculous. Well, hello. We're going to talk about our first Tesla service experience and the things that have happened afterwards. We took delivery of this car in December, and when we did the walk around, we noticed a few problems. Number one, there was a paint chip on the rear hatch. It looked like the rear hatch had been opened into something because there was what looked like drywall debris around the chip. And the delivery specialist cleaned off the debris with some cleaner, which did make it look a lot better. However, the chip was still there. Like, you could feel it. It was an actual depression. You could feel it with your finger. So that wasn't good, but they made a note of that on the paperwork, and we noticed that trim right on the right side. There was a piece of trim on the, and I'll insert picture here. But there was a piece of trim on the back right side of the car that was poking out, and there was a point to it, and it really looked like somebody could walk by and get their jacket or something caught on it and tear more of the trim off. And then lastly, there was like some gray dust on the carpet on the driver's side that wouldn't come up with vacuuming. And it was really weird because the dust wasn't where the floor mat was. But the floor mat itself was clean. So it was almost like the floor had gotten contaminated and they had removed the floor mat, put a clean one on, and then sent it on its way. So anyway, those were the three issues we had right out the gate. And the delivery specialist who was working with us said that they had made a note of all that and that they would be contacting us to schedule a service appointment, but, well, they never did.
Nope. I think it was like Tuesday, and we had taken delivery the previous Wednesday,
right? So almost a full week. No calls, no emails, nothing like that. Oh, the sun is not in our eyes anymore. How nice is that? So I took it upon myself to get in touch with them again and find out when this was going to happen. So I contacted the delivery specialist, who said, "Oh, I'll ping the service center again and let them know." And actually, I think I had done that earlier than a week, and I still didn't hear anything. So finally, I just contacted the service center directly and started working with someone there to get scheduled. They scheduled us for about a week or two out, and that same day ended up just being a snow day here in North Carolina. And
which unfortunately means that the roads were fine by the time of our appointment, but everything was still closed.
Yes, everything was shut down for the day. So they had to put us off another couple of weeks. We were finally able to go in on it was a Wednesday when we dropped it off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Wednesday at 2:30, and they said, "Drop it off. We'll have a loaner for you," which was nice. So we showed up. There was a fourth problem that cropped up after we took delivery, where one of these mirrors was squeaking when it was opening. But that went away on its own before the service appointment, so they didn't end up having to fix that. So this guy went over the three problems, said, "Okay, we'll take care of this, no problem." We left the keys, we hopped in the loaner, and went about our merry way. They didn't give an estimate at the time of when the car would be ready, which was a little weird. I ended up calling them the next morning because I hadn't heard from them, and wanted to know an update on how the work was proceeding, and they couldn't tell me anything. They were like, "Well, I'm not sure. I'll go check." And they said, "Well, I think we might have it ready for you later today, but we'll call you later this afternoon and let you know." Well, they never did. So I called them again the next morning. This is Friday morning, and said, "Hey, I still haven't received any updates on this." They said, "Well, it should be ready today. We will call you this afternoon and let you know for sure." And they actually did call that afternoon, which was nice. And they said, "We still don't know when it'll be ready." And I said, "Well, I need it by 4 o'clock because we had an appointment set up with a detailer to do the optic coating on it, and he needed the car that evening. So I said, we need it by 4, and they said, "Okay, it'll be ready by 4. So That was odd. And anyway, I drove by at 4, and sure enough, it was ready. They were just finishing cleaning it up, which, interestingly enough, I had requested them not to. When we dropped it off, they asked, "Do you want us to, wash it for you?" And I said no, but they did anyway. Not a huge thing, but still kind of annoying. So you have some opinions on their scheduling abilities.
Well, my experience with my Volvo service technicians has been really awesome. They always can tell me if it's going to take more than one day. And when I drop the car off, they tell me they'll call me when it's ready, or call me to let me know like what the problem is if I'm not sure. Like, oh, the check engine light's on. What's the problem? They're very prompt about calling me back, and they always have the car ready by the end of the day, unless it's actually an issue where they know it needs to be longer than that. So
right.
It's really nice to be 100% certain that I will drop my car off to be fixed and get it back that same day. So it was mind-boggling to me to not get our Tesla back the same day after having this experience for so many years with my Volvo. It just didn't even occur to me that they would keep it overnight like that.
They're definitely busy.
And part of it has to be just because they're still so small. I think they need to work a little harder at keeping up with the number of cars that they're having to work on, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
But it shouldn't be that hard to be like, okay, there's this many hours in a day, we should be able to fix this many cars, and then just not make appointments for cars over that number.
Exactly.
I mean, if we had to make an appointment 2 weeks out anyway, it seems like they're trying to do that, but it should have been 2 weeks and 3 days out instead of anyway.
Maybe they need some like calendar software or something. If we dropped the car off, like that should be our place in line, Like we shouldn't get bumped back in the queue just because, number one, we're not waiting, and number two, the fixes are just cosmetic, especially if they were cosmetic defects that were present when we took delivery of the car.
And I mean, we're still without our car, just like the people with more major problems were still without their car. It's not like, it's not like the cars with more major problems are going to like disintegrate while they're waiting to be fixed or something.
These are all first world problems, though. We're very blessed to have the vehicle. We were blessed that they gave us a loaner.
Yes.
And that was actually a Tesla, because I've heard that doesn't always happen. That sometimes you get a loaner that's not even an electric vehicle, which would have been a shame.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, all the problems were fixed, except the paint chip wasn't fixed, because they said a body shop would need to fix that, since it was actually deep. They couldn't just touch it up. So that was great. But they fixed the trim, and they fixed the carpet. Interestingly enough, too, they didn't turn our dash cam off, so we were able to review like when everything took place. And what we found out was, even though we had dropped the car off on Wednesday, it basically was just parked behind the service center the entire day Wednesday, the entire day Thursday, most of the day Friday. It wasn't until I called them and said I needed it by 4 that they actually moved it into the garage and started working on it. So that was a little annoying, because if they couldn't have worked on it until Friday, we would have preferred to just drop it off Friday to begin with. Yeah. So we weren't having to drive a loaner around, because we love this car. It's an awesome car. And it was also frustrating that the communication the whole time was just terrible. They called me a total of 1 time, whereas I was constantly calling them. Well, not constantly, but once a day I would call them to find out what was going on, because they just were not providing updates as promised. The actual fixes were great, and everyone was very polite the whole time. Nobody was ever rude to me or anything. It's just certain promises were made and were not kept, so that was disappointing. On the upside, the manager of the service center called me the following week after the service appointment to apologize for what had happened, and to find out a little more about what our experience had been, and to apologize for the bad communication. So that was nice. He talked about how they've been trying out some new methods to try to expedite cars moving through the service center, and I guess we were just an unfortunate byproduct of the new experiments. I mean, how long does it take to clean the carpet and replace a piece of trim? It shouldn't take 2.5 days.
Well, we have the dash cam footage. We can time it and see how long it actually took.
Well, they pulled the car into the garage. I called around noon, and they pulled the car into the garage around 2 o'clock, and it was done by 4, so...
Took 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours for both fixes. This is not to bash on Tesla, this is just to share our experience. What frightens me is that the Model 3 is out and is ramping. Soon there's going to be Model 3s everywhere, and people are going to need service on their Model 3s. So how is this all going to work when the service center is even more crowded than it is now? I feel like whoever's in charge right now is kind of more of a laid-back, phlegmatic personality. Whenever stuff gets done, it'll get done. It's okay. Don't sweat it. Ended up taking the car to the body shop that Tesla recommended, and they haven't actually done the fix yet. They just wanted to see what the chip looked like. They said the actual fix is going to take 5 days, so we're going to have to give up our car for practically another week again. When you buy a brand new car from the factory, you don't expect there to be a paint chip on it. Oh, and then the last story is with regards to the license plate.
Oh, yeah.
When we took delivery, I told the DS that we wanted to transfer our license plate from our old vehicle, which we were selling. And they said, oh, we can't do that. They said, we can only give you a new plate, and then you need to take that into the DMV and have them transfer it. Well, this is the first time I've ever purchased a new car, so I didn't know any better. I figured what they were telling me was accurate. Well, then when I got the confirmation email a couple weeks after delivery, saying, your new license plate is on the way, here's what to do. It included a paragraph at the bottom, oh, and if you're transferring your plate from your other car, here's what to do. So clearly that was an option. When I got the new plate and took it into the DMV, they also confirmed that yes, that is an option. And what's annoying is, in addition to paying the extra $20 fee to transfer the plate, we're having to pay the property tax on the Tesla twice. Once now, and then once again in February when the property tax on my old car was set to renew. Because apparently here in North Carolina, property tax follows the plate. So we're going to have to pay the property tax twice and then go to the Department of Revenue and ask them, please, can you refund us the difference? Because there's some overlap here, and we'd like the other $1,100 back, please. So that's going to be extra time standing in line at the DMV and then going to the Department of Revenue's office, because I'm pretty confident they're not going to be able to handle it over the phone, because they actually want some paperwork to prove that we sold the old car and stuff like that. I ended up emailing Tesla again about that, and they apologized and said, sorry, we done goofed, and they said they couldn't actually reimburse us any of the expenses, but they said they'd be willing to give us some accessories or something if we had anything we were interested in. So anyway, what has your Tesla service experience been? Comment below and let us know if what we experienced was typical or out of the ordinary, and hopefully the second time around won't be quite that bad.